Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Live at RIA. It is Sunday. Yes, I know I missed you guys for a while. The technician, let me see here. Let's make sure my microphone is working properly. Right, yeah. And y'all can hear me. Um, right, good. Okay. Yeah. So welcome to Live at RIA here on RIA Shackam Radio, home of the Evolve 3 Maestro laptop, which I got here, which I'm not using tonight. I'm using my MacBook Pro. What a fun night it's been. What a fun summer. Tonight we have a very special guest, Ben Cherry, AD8 A&W root beer. Okay, AD8 AW. He is the new owner of the Softrock series of kits. And those of you who don't know what Softrock is, well, we'll give you a brief tutorial. But first of all, some reminders here. If you're new to the channel, why don't you like and subscribe? I produce content for ham radio, other types of radio, battery power and renewable energy as well too. Although I'm probably moving that to another channel, which I'll ask you to like and subscribe to because so we could grow that space. I'll also be talking at the QSO today Ham Virtual Expo, where I will be talking about power. I'll be talking about how to pair a station without gasoline, but not necessarily without fuel. I have a few new goodies I'm testing here, including some dual fuel propane natural gas sort of options. Anyway, hi Ethan, nice to see you. Yeah. Next week we have another special treat too, so don't miss next week. Next week I'm going to have ICOM on here, and ICOM's going to talk. Ray Novak from ICOM. We're going to be talking about a lot of good stuff. I've been doing some stuff. I see Ethan here. Ethan is from he also helps out with this project I've been working on with Sussex County Charter School for Technology here in Northwest New Jersey. They're in Sparta, and there's a school with some middle schoolers, and they've been, really in building up their ham radio club. We had an ARIS contact. Their teacher is really dedicated. We have a dedicated group of volunteers, including Watch WX. See if I could highlight him here. Yeah, Ethan. He is here with the I believe that's him. I might know more than one Ethan. Anyway, we have him. We have Vince, KD2DMJ. Yeah, you're talking to me, Vince. Yeah, Jersey guy, Jersey Italian guy, really nice guy. And we have some outside help from like Fred Kemmer and the rest of them. So, new partnerships, Ham Radio Prep. If you're not licensed or you want to upgrade, I'm giving 20% off with code RIA. And you could just check them out at hamradioprep.com. Of course, my courses on my channel always be free. I'm not going to charge, but there are a lot of options, and I have some stuff coming up too for licensing. So always good stuff. I always want to get people, and it's all about the knowledge. Okay. I'm not one of those unboxing channels where, I'm not here to I leave that for the other guys. Okay. I might do product reviews. I might do a little show and tell here and there, but I'm all about the knowledge. Okay. Anyway, so so without further ado, let me see if I could bring in Ben here, and Ben could tell us all about Softrock. Okay. Hi, Ben. Good
Hi, Ria.
evening. I assume it's evening. It's where you are, and welcome to the shack.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So we have a small audience here tonight. Sometimes I get over 100. Depends on how the night goes. I have 33 in here right now, but we have a dedicated Lawnmower says unboxing challenge for the best challenge. All right, I'll do some unboxing one. So you have taken over Softrock, okay? So for those of you who are new to Softrock, let me tell my experience with it first, and then you could tell yours. So in the early days of SDR, before I ever got involved with Flex Radio, a lot of people know me as being involved with Flex Radio, right? And also now I do all sorts of SDR stuff. Um, I had I had a presentation from, I can't remember who it was. It was a certain two land amateur who came to the NJDXA, and he gave a presentation on flex radios. But he said, you know what? If you can't afford a flex radio, what can you get for $1? Okay. He said nothing. He said, and back this was back in 2006. Okay. What can you get for $10? And he said, well, you can get a little receiver called a Softrock. Of course, price inflation and all that kind of things goes up. I bought several of their kits for $10. I bought some for $30. I bought some for $100. I have a whole plethora of them. Right. It was run by a guy named Tony Parks, KB9YIG. I don't know if he changed his call sign. And then now, unfortunately, we all get advanced age, and he passed on the torch. So, but the Softrocks are basically little quadrature sampling SDR kits that connect to your sound card. So here you come into, Ben. What's been your experience with Softrock so far? Like, how did you get into it? See, exactly. That's exactly showing us.
Well, part of when I got into amateur radio, I'm a relatively recent licensee. It's been less than 4 years. I was very fascinated with this new technology of software-defined radio, and Softrock seemed like every place I turned. Right. Every place I did any research looking for it, there was a reference to Softrock or some mention of it. So I picked up one. They're a very nice, well-designed unit. I've had some that had spurs and noise spikes all over the place. These seem to be fairly quiet. And the price point was very good on them. And I like to tinker and build. I'm in the hobby more for designing and building and testing stuff than getting out there and making contacts. So when I found out Tony was giving up and retiring, I got a hold of him and made him an offer so I could keep it going. I didn't want to see it drop.
And you know what? I have to say, first of all, thank you for doing that, because that would have been a loss. Because for many people, that's their first introduction to software-defined radio. Okay, and the what you get for the money. I mean, even the $100, $150 kits, what you get for the money is fantastic.
Yes.
And it, I mean, a lot of things have changed over the years. Obviously, some of the materials are different and such like that. But because even when I was getting into it, I had like the small square boards, right? What was that? The 40 light or something they call that?
That could be. That was before my time in the radio. I've seen a lot of different generations of these. I'm not sure what all the terminology on all of them is.
Okay. So I gave a basic overview. Could you tell me, like, what you know about, like, the architect? Because I have a basic idea of the architecture, right? But you obviously probably know a little more now, since Tony handed over probably all the designs and such to you.
Yeah, well, the schematics are freely downloadable off 5-Dash's website still. As I get my website built, I'll probably port those over and make them available on my website as well.
Right. Okay.
That's a winter project, working on getting a website more polished. Right now, I'm trying to get the kits put together and get all the kits back as an offered. We've got all the parts in now. I've just got to sit down and polish up some programming.
Yeah. So this is your website, but let me show people the old website. So the old website, run by Tony Parks, was known as 5-Dash, right?
Yes.
And then he had like a bunch of these, the RXTX Ensemble, the Handy, and all these stuff, and the one to get your feet wet, which was only $20 back then, but that's history. And then all these built built, and so it's not only kits, right? And then we
Right.
come to your website where you're kind of billing out the shop, right?
Right.
And yeah,
I,
so let's
I
let's
tried to
start from
simplify that structure a
mhm,
little bit. Um,
yeah.
if you click on each board, it offers both kit and built.
Okay, so the handy, what is the
Yeah, the
handy?
handy's going to go bye-bye.
Okay.
I had some talk with, because I was curious what that was,
Hmm.
and I talked with Tony on that on the phone, and he relayed that he put that together as a first offering radio, as a
Okay.
built radio for very, absolute beginners, as
Hmm.
an entry thing project. He built up a couple of them. He said all of them he built are basically either in his lab or with friends and family, and he could not recall ever selling a single one of them.
Okay. Huh. Now
So I think
these,
we're gonna just drop that one.
so these are the boards here, right? This is
Right.
the light two. This is, I think you said this goes for like $20 to $40, right? Or probably,
Yeah.
price might be adjusted
The
around there.
the TXRX board, I just bought 10 of them.
Hmm.
Did an express on them, and they cost me about $21 a board.
Okay.
Was
Hmm.
my cost.
And then
Um,
you have the ensembles and such like that. So let's
yeah.
let's let's start from in terms of like, so the soft rock is not like your typical, let me take this off the screen here. So soft rock is not like your typical direct sampling fancy pants $5,000 flex radio, right? It's
Right.
not that. And it's not intended to be that. It's not intended to replace an ICOM 705 or a 7300. It's intended to be a cheap experimenter, something somebody would build to get their feet wet, right? Is that
Right.
what I
This
understand?
uses either your computer sound card or an
Hmm.
external USB sound card to do a lot of
Hmm.
the heavy lifting um,
Okay.
and processing. It's got a SI 570 for the tunable oscillator in it, and a
Okay.
mixer, and a lot of filtering in there, and it's got a miniature PA in there that gives you about 1 watt out. I
Okay.
had a chance to hook it up to a power meter myself and chart
Hmm.
what one did across all the bands. At
Right.
some point, I may do some testing on that, and I'll probably make a link on the website to the test data that I came up with if people
Okay.
are interested in that.
So since these use sound cards, these are what you call quadrature sampling, right? They basically,
Right,
yeah. So they feed left and right audio, an in phase and one 90 degrees out
quadrature.
of phase called quadrature.
Right.
And what's the purpose of having a quadrature?
The mathematics it's a very steep learning curve on the mathematics, but
Yeah.
the end result of it all is they do a direct sample at the frequency you're receiving, so you have a zero frequency IF.
Hmm.
So then you can run your quadrature and your in phase signals into the sound card, and the computer can filter and decode your modulation
Hmm.
on there in any one of the different modulation formats. It's just a matter of changing the software.
Okay. So Arnold Grubbs is saying he bought a few of these several years ago to give away at Four States QRP, Ozark Con. He still has a couple of boards that he needs to put together. I think that's all of us. I have like a dozen boards in my closet that I need to put together. One of them I'll probably do live. Um, I'm sure you know Joe Eisenberg, K0NEB, right? Do you know Joe?
No, I don't.
If you're into kits, you'll need to. Well, you guys will be good friends because Joe is my good friend, and Joe is who I call the master kit builder. He is the
Okay.
kits editor for CQ magazine. right? And he's also a you know, he's also he presents at various conventions. He does live kit builds, and he's built pretty much every kit out there. That's
Okay.
his claim to fame. Yeah. So,
My
you know.
experience with kits is it usually boils back to the documentation. The
Mhm.
better the documentation, the more successful the kit will be.
Right. So as far as you mentioned boards, and Ben, I'm sorry, Don N5SKT is asking, are you having issues getting parts for the kits?
No, I did have some issues finding the AT Tinies, but I found a source
Mhm.
for the first 20 of those.
Okay.
If these things start selling pretty good, I'll probably go back and buy either 50 or 100 of them. But I
Mm.
didn't want to end up with a large supply.
Right.
This product is a very mature product, and is a lot of competing products out there.
Mm.
So I'm trying to get my feet wet. I ordered enough parts to put together the first 10 RXTX boards and 10 light boards. So
Yeah.
we'll have 10 of each, and we'll see how they sell.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. That's good. I might buy a couple. um, you know
Okay.
what? Actually, when they come out, yeah, I might do a giveaway on the channel. To be honest,
Okay.
Paul Templeton Tampion asked for this $60 laptop. So this is a different question, unrelated. This one, you need an M2 SSD, M2 2242, and it must be SATA, right? SATA, SATA. It can't be NVMe for these laptops. So I did a video on these laptops, which are $60. Okay, so you get these in Micro Center for $60. They run Windows 10, and that's what he was asking. So anyway, Brian is asking, would be good for beginning kit builders. Um, I would say no, but Ben, could you tell me why?
Well, there's both surface mount and through hole.
Mhm.
Um, I would recommend getting your feet wet if you've never done a kit before on one of the little what do they call those little QRP crystal controlled transmitters. You can still
Mm.
buy those for less than $10, and you can get your feet wet on something that's not nearly as complex. The first RXTX board I put together, I was surprised. I looked at the schematic and looked at the board. I built circuit boards for 20 years on a bench, and I thought, okay, piece of cake. I'll be done with it in one, maybe 2 evenings. I was a
Mm.
week before I finished it.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
it's a lot more tedious than what I had expected on first sight.
Hmm.
I may go through and see if I can come up with some documentation to make that a little more straightforward.
Yeah, and Joe is saying the SMT and the toroids. I found the SMT was a piece of cake. The surface mount was a piece of cake. The toroids, on the other hand, were you threading the needle. You know, it's like sewing. Okay.
I spent 2 evenings just building toroids, and another whole
Yeah.
evening just trying to identify the leads and separate them and get them to go in the holes on the board. So the toroids themselves was 3 evenings worth of time after work before bedtime,
Mm.
um, just getting the toroids soldered into the board.
Mm. DD Radio says make these assembly instruction like Heathkit, and you're good to go. Maybe. I don't think Heathkit had surface mount back then. But you know, with some of Joe will tell you some of the kits he's built actually had where all the surface mount parts were already on the board. That might be something to consider later on. You know, if this change of ownership does grow
Yeah,
into something nice, like you
I've
can have
had
like all.
I've had that in the back of my mind for simplifying the board.
Mhm.
Possibly that'll be a winter project or next year if these sell pretty good and there seems to be a demand for it. I've kind of got in the back of my mind with the AT Tinies. starting to be difficult. And there's a few circuits in there that I've seen that since it was designed to now, technology has increased. And I would like to do some experimenting to see if I can streamline the build, make it mostly surface mount, and probably offer that as a kit which will be 80 or 90% built, and all the kit building part of it will just be building the toroids and soldering them in the board.
Yeah, that's going to be good. Of course, there's always the option to buy. Will you be offering fully built radios, or is it just you're going to be offering
Yeah,
kits to
that
start?
might be a week or two after I get the kits put together and online, but I've got to build up one of each just to prove to myself that the boards are good.
Okay.
Because I did make a new order of boards off Tony's artwork that he sent me, and I don't know for sure if there's any stories behind that. So I want to build one up and make sure that everything's kosher before I start selling these and putting them off onto other people.
Right. So you mentioned that you got into ham radio only recently. Just to so Joe, well, before you do that, Joe said the QDX is SMT already done. The Force's QRP Novo 575 kit says lots of SMT already done. You see, Joe will tell you everything. Okay, Joe knows all these kits inside out. So you guys gonna be good friends. You know.
Okay.
Yeah, Joe's actually going to be at Ham Exposition, which is so I'm with ARRL as well, right? Although this is not an ARRL show, I can't really separate my ARRL-ness from my daily life. But we have our division convention jointly with New England at Ham Exposition in Massachusetts, and Joe is going to be there doing a live kit build, and he's also going to be giving a speech. So Joe is I really appreciate the work Joe does, because he's always looking to see how hams can still possess the knowledge to build their own equipment, right? Whether, forget about building an ICOM 7300. You build something simple, right? And you
Right.
have that pride of achievement, and you learn something,
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. But let's get to you for a minute. So you said you recently got involved in ham radio. What was your drive to get into ham radio?
Well, I've been software or shortwave listener on and off pretty near my whole life. I just never had any desire to learn Morse code. And I just found out about 5 years ago that they had dropped the code requirement. So,
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I guess it's been gone for quite some time, but I always worked in the industrial electronics end and never much in the hobbyist era or radios. So that just escaped right on by me when it happened. When I found out about 5 years ago, I bought the books and started studying, and had a lot of other interruptions in there. And finally, about 3 years ago over Christmas vacation, I decided I was going to do it. And I sat down, I bought all 3 books, studied them all for several months over the winter, and made one trip to town. Nearest testing center was about 50 miles away. So I made a trip down there and passed all 3 tests in one sitting and got my extra class, and bought an ICOM 7300 and proceeded to spend 90% of my time listening.
Okay.
I did get on the air. I made contacts in 32 countries that first year.
Right.
As far as getting on the microphone, I've done very little. It's kind of a rare occurrence for me to pick up the microphone, but I do like to get on the digital modes, and I do like to build and experiment with things and get on the air and prove it out, and then I go back to the bench and try something else.
So by digital modes, you mean like FT8 and such, right?
Right. And SSTV.
Okay. But you know, a funny thing is that a lot of people think SSTV is digital, but SSTV is actually analog, except the digital SSTV.
Yeah, and I've just recently discovered that.
Uh-huh.
And I finally got the antenna and rotor up there so that I can do a little more playing with that. Doesn't seem to be
Mm,
anybody fairly close to Michigan that's doing the digital SSTV at this point.
okay.
So I had to put up a bigger antenna and a rotor. And one of these days, I'll get some time to sit down and start pointing the antenna when it's in the gray zone and see if I can find out where they're actually working with that.
Mm. So Don asked a very interesting question. Do these kits have user's guide for how to use them after build? Excuse me. And do
Uh,
any of them support digital modes?
well, they'll all support digital modes through whatever piece of software you're using to run them. As far as a
Mhm.
user guide, um, any of the SDR softwares that are out there will support them. It would be more of a user guide for how to use the software than the radio itself.
Yeah.
Um, the boards are pretty simple to hook up. You've got audio in and audio out, and a power connector, and antenna connector.
Mhm. Hmm. I think he's. I'm gonna unblock
For
him
a
here.
keying paddle,
Okay.
and then the USB connector is used to tune the frequency.
Oh, okay. Now let me just show you guys. So you're talking about documentation. Where I originally got the set of documentation was from. It used to be on Yahoo groups, right? That's to tell how far going back they are, and now they're on groups.io. You have a bunch of stuff. You have Tony Parks, who was the original Softrock, one where he retired, and then it shows where you picked up the ball and you picked up the torch, and
Yes.
this was very welcome news. So what I could say is anybody looking for documentation, check this group. There might be a fair amount of it, and you're gonna see like a lot of stuff in here. Yeah. It's all good stuff in this groups.io/g/softrock40, which is the original group. This this was a very good resource for me building them out. Now, and you can see here the original one with the USB port, which they don't make anymore. I think he said this is the one that Tony Parks don't make anymore, right? He didn't he only sold like one of them, or he didn't sell any more.
That's not the handy.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure what one that is. I saw that picture myself the other day, and unfortunately, I saw that after the last phone call I had with Tony, so I
Mm.
didn't get a chance to ask him about that.
I think this is the very oldest version, Softrock 40. Like you plug it into a USB port to power it, and then you connect it to your sound card and your antenna. And then eventually Tony got rid of the USB port power, and you just powered from a 12-volt supply.
Yeah, there's a power port, but you still got to have the USB in order to. There should be an AT Tiny in there someplace.
No,
Oh,
this was
there it
before.
is.
This was well before that. These were single band and stuck to a particular
Okay,
frequency range. Yeah,
okay,
this
yeah.
we're
Then that.
talking vintage stuff. You know,
Yeah, the original ones used crystals instead of
right?
the tunable
Exactly.
IF.
Right.
So your bandwidth that you could receive with them was strictly dependent on the bandwidth of your sound card,
Right.
which back in those days, hardly anybody had a sound card more than 48 kilohertz.
Well, I ended up buying one of these expensive 192 kilohertz sound cards. You know.
Yeah, I've got several of them here of varying specs. After I
Mhm.
get some of these boards built up and I have a couple evenings to to sit down and really get in depth into them. I want to do some actual measurements and compare between them, and put a little article together. I'll probably post that on the Softrock 40 group.
Okay. So Joe said that was when he built, but let me show you this software. He's talking of software. This was the original software I used, which is called Rocky, right?
Okay.
And Rocky was written by, so if you know Alex, right, V3NEA, he writes a bunch of these ham software. He writes like DX Atlas and most famously CW Skimmer. But he also wrote a small SDR client called Rocky, right? And but this is old. I think he wrote this in Borland, Delphi.
Okay.
So yeah, I know it's old, and
but it still looks very functional.
It works. You know what? I use this, and he actually tested. I actually use this. I use this with digital modes and such like that, and I use this. What was it on a Pentium 4 back then? Okay.
Wow.
And then now you see all of this, but I mean now you have different software like HDSDR. What other software do you recommend? Have you used on it?
I have tried several when I first started playing with the SDRs. HDSDR is one of the better ones.
Right.
Just a minute. Let me look on the other computer here and I'll see what's the latest version I've been using.
Yeah. So basically Rocky and all these other software, that's just for you guys to know. They actually take the two signals from the sound card and then decode them in software. And then for transmitting, it actually encodes it out. So it's a completely self-contained system. Rocky actually had like built-in CW decoder too, I believe.
Yeah. HDSDR is actually what's up on my main computer.
On your main computer?
I've been working with the most lately. So,
does SDR console work? Probably does.
I would say probably, but I couldn't tell you that for sure. You've got to talk to the software. Any of the SDR programs will work as far as showing the signals and decoding them. There's the issue of sending the signals out the USB port to talk to the AT Tiny on there to change the frequencies on the SI570. There's some programs written on that have a plug-in or actually now have a drop-down where you can select Softrock as the radio, and they will merge that into the radio so you can use the software's frequency control. If you do there is a standalone on, what is that, PE0 FEO's website, I believe. There's a link to a piece of control software. I believe I used that. It's been several years since I did that when I first started out. But you can actually use that to change the frequency on a Softrock, and then use any SDR software to decode the IQ signals.
Okay. So SDR console, I believe, was actually written by Simon Brown. So Simon Brown actually was famous because he was the original author, I believe it's him, of Ham Radio Deluxe. Okay. I believe it's him, but I'm not sure. Could be somebody else. Somebody in the audience could probably help me. Does SDR console work? Yeah, we don't know. It probably will work with some modification, Don. But that's all for the experimentation. And I'm thinking of taking my stuff back out the closet now, because I chuck all of them in a drawer. And I occasionally used to play with them, but now, now this whole new world of Softrock is here. I might start around playing again. You know, yeah. Um, let's see here. So they said in Hermes, Red Pattaya, RF Space SDR Play, Win Radio, Air Spy, Anon, Elad, Lime SDR, Pluto. So I don't know. I know it does work with CW Skimmer. Have you tried it with CW Skimmer?
I have not.
Okay. Yeah. Like way back in the days, us contesters used to try to, like, what we did was we built like a whole rack of soft rocks. Or, well, Tim Duffy, K3LR, he is very well heeled. So he actually bought Perseus SDRs, built a whole rack of them, and used those as a CW skimmer. But I ended up using soft rocks on mine. I was receiving, CW skimmer. So yeah, that's pretty cool stuff. Okay. Todd, hello all. Let's see here. It's a neat design for the USB. Yeah, unfortunately, half of the problem with USB is that you're going to have a lot of noise introduced in there. Um, Go ahead.
Yeah, that was one of the issues I wanted to take a look at if I do a redesign for a next generation board over the winter. Is I wanted to take it to a 4-layer board and
okay.
and take the noise level, isolate the USB even more than it is, and try and drop the noise levels down to as low as they can be done with today's technology. And at the same time, because the new parts are faster, I should be able to add 6 and 4 meters for the European market on there. And I'm going to be working very earnestly to get 2 meters to work with a Softrock.
Ooh, now that's something to look forward
It's
to.
a challenge. I don't know if it will happen or not, but that's one of the goal points that's going to be looked at with the new redesign.
Right. You find some old stuff in there. Okay, so this is an old article from the American QRP Club, and it shows like the original USB port one and the back. Can you imagine surface mount assembling these guys? Break out the toaster oven, okay? That's the best
I
way to do it.
love surface mount soldering. I hand solder all that.
I did that once. Okay.
Where I start to have problems is when we get into the square packages with 0.25 millimeter lead spacing.
Ouch. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very tedious. I can do about one of them a month, and my eyes take 2 weeks to heal afterwards.
Yeah, and then back then they also used Power SDR from Flex Radio.
I can remember using that. That was a nice piece of software, but HD software I prefer.
HD SDR, I think, is a software of choice. I even use that with the Flex. I when I want to create an additional slice. So Power SDR console, and then they give a description here. The hardware down converts a 48 kilohertz swath. This was before you had the SI 570. It's the whole control, right? This is when it was crystal controlled. So you have a 28.224 megahertz reference signal, and then you have a clock frequencies at 14.112 and 7056. Then you feed it to QSD, and then it takes the RF signal. So it has 2 signals at audio baseband frequencies, representing the down converted and 90 degrees phase difference. And then, yeah. I believe part of that, the reason for doing it that way was to reduce the images. Because if you had IQ, you could cancel out the images, Normally you'd have like one mirrored on one side, one mirrored on the other side.
Okay.
And then you have the schematics, right? Flex Radio Friends. I don't know. Yeah. Tony is a funny guy. And then this was a low end Dell with a 2.2 gigahertz Celeron.
I
So that
remember
means
those.
you could probably run on one of these Evolve 3 Maestro $60 laptops, guys. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Then you see here, see the old one, and then yeah, kit assembly service available from KB9YIG, and then yeah, and Bill Tracy and Tony Parks, you know, um, and then well, of course, Gerald Youngblood and Bob McGuire. Bob's a character. Okay, I know Bob very well, and Frank Brickle, and you know, pretty interesting. Good stuff. So this looks really nice. You know, like I said, you know, I'm really excited here because you know these I cut my teeth, my SDR teeth on these. You know, I really that whetted my appetite for software defined radios. So divergent from the Softrocks, any other radios you use besides the Softrocks? What do you use in your main shack?
Um, I was using a TS520 right now
Mm-hmm.
sitting, and I've got an FT847, but I put it back in the closet and pulled out the TS930 and a TS790A are sitting on my bench right now.
Okay. Oh, that's nice.
I've
I go ahead.
I've developed some hard hearing and some frequency loss in my older age, so
Right.
the tone outputs on the Kenwoods are more pleasing to me. So I've gotten to be a very devout Kenwood fan for built radios.
You want to know something? I love Kenwood radios too. Okay. I have no, I have a few of them. I have a Kenwood TS440, which was actually the very first radio that I used on HF, right?
Uh huh.
And this was back in, so I'm originally from Trinidad in the Caribbean. And the very first radio I used belonged to 9Y4X. Back then he was 9Y4NED. And he had a TS440, and he was, you know, we did this at a field day type event, and he let me use a radio and call. I was like, way cool. What I liked was it was built like a tank, right? And the audio was nice too. You know, everybody loves to rave about that Kenwood audio.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got the Kenwood Mobile, the TMV71 or TMV7. I had that in my old Honda Accord, right?
Okay.
2004 Honda Accord, and I put that in the trunk, and I put the display up on the dash. And I used to check into all the local 2 meter nets and 70 centimeter nets with that. You know, unfortunately, that car, after about 350,000 miles, I sold it, and it probably went to scrap. You know, and then the other Kenwood I have is my D74, my Kenwood handheld D74. I love that radio.
Okay.
So Kenwood makes some good radios too. But I also have a whole bunch of ICOMs. I have the ICOM 746, 756 Pro 3, and a couple of 7000s, and you know the 705. They make good radios too. But I must say I love the Kenwood audio for well, not for the same reasons you do, but you know the audio sounds a little more pleasing.
I found it very much so.
Yeah.
Um, I loved the ICOM 7300. That was my first radio that I had when after I got, well, I actually bought it before I got my license
Hmm.
and used it the first year I was on the air, made a lot of contacts with it, but then I bought a TS 520 because I wanted to get on the boat anchor networks Saturday mornings.
Mm.
And I liked that 520 so much I sold my ICOM.
Oh,
I'm
I have a
still wondering if that was the right decision, but
I have a 520 that's a project. Okay, it
okay.
needs some repairs, but yeah, I remember the 520. I had a TS 830 in Trinidad, right? And I left that behind. But the TS 830 was a magnificent radio, right? It was a hybrid, just like the 520. You switch it on, you switch on the heater, you wait for the tubes to warm up before you could transmit, and you load and you dip the plate. You know?
Yep.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
That was quite an ordeal to get that thing in the shack an hour early, warm everything up and tune it up before the net would come on. It was.
I used to just leave mine on.
Well, the tubes are getting a little hard to find to just leave them on anymore.
Oh yeah, no. The heater, I would leave the receiver on, but the
heater?
heater,
Yeah.
I would just turn it on like you said, an hour before you check it. You know. Yeah.
Yeah. That was quite a chore, but unfortunately it developed band switching issues and I ended up letting go of it too. Now I'm in the market to find a 520 or a 530S. I want to get on 160 again.
Yeah, Don says he has a 520, he still loves it. I am on 160, but of course I use a flex for that because I do a lot of weak signal, not necessarily FT8. I do a lot of CW on 160.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
I probably will too, and I may not get another 520 because I've got this TXRX that I'm working on turning into a 3-band radio with a switch to do 2200 meters, 630 meters, and 160. So then I'll have my low bands all covered.
Right. So you mentioned 2 meters, and now you're mentioning the low end. Could you tell me some of the challenges of getting this to operate on the low bands, the lowest of the on like the VLF bands, the long wave bands?
I haven't got it on the air yet, but so far building it and looking at things, the parts, especially the toroids and the coils, physically are getting large enough that even mounting them on the switch, I'm fearful of what kind of crosstalk I'm going to have between the channels for the different bands. So I'm wondering what kind of shielding and what I'm going to have to do there. So I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to offer that as a kit. I may throw some pictures together for the more advanced people if anybody wants to try and hack one together themselves. Or once I get a case set up, picked out for it that works good in the front end, I may sell that as a pre-assembled radio.
Now, what do you use for an antenna for it?
That I've still got to get put out there too. I've got a half-mile spool of wire, and I've got a little over an acre of land back there in the swamp. I'm probably just going to throw a whole bunch of wire up in the trees around the swamp and bring it into the house. Now, whether it's going to end up being a loop or a end fed, I haven't decided at this point.
What I did was I used an 80 meter dipole, and I just I kind of just have a switch to short it and use it as a Marconi, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So it's basically a T-top. Right, a T-top, and then the radiating element becomes the feed line. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And Buzz says he feels like a novice. But Buzz, a lot of things in ham radio remain the same. We're not look, this radio, this radio is state-of-the-art, sophisticated stuff, okay? And I'll say radio because this is an iPhone. And all of these things are just, they're hurtling at the speed of light. But ham radio, you're still using single sideband. You're still using AM if you want to, FM, CW. I operate CW. You can opt for weak signal digital modes if you want to, but you don't have to necessarily stick with the latest and greatest. And that's the beauty of ham radio. You can do whatever you want.
Yep.
Don says here, I know my Flex has the option for 2200 and 630. Never try to transmit. You won't be able to transmit through the stock PA because the PA doesn't have filters for that. What you will get, you'll get it through the transverter port, and then on the transverter port, you can attach an external amplifier. But because you're mostly going to be using digital modes, you could even use a class C amplifier. You don't need to have like a clean class class AB or something like that. You can have like a dirty amplifier, and if you're transmitting, just most people on that band, they either use Whisper or most of the people use Whisper or CW, so you don't have to do anything. Joe says he picked up an FT101E. Yeah, that's nice. If we could find one that people haven't butchered up for CB radio, that's nice. Oh yeah, so Arnold. Arnold, we just talked about that actually. If there's going to be any work on the LF, so Ben basically said that how he's experimenting on it. He's not going to be sure if he's offering it as a kit, but he's definitely going to have it there for the advanced people. I think some people are going to want you to offer this as a kit, to be honest. But you might do a limited
the divide by 16 boards are there, and the TXRX board will definitely do it with the divide by 16 clock board in it. But there'll be single band radios.
Okay.
Where I'm having my doubts at this point, and I've got to prove it out before I'll put it on a website and sell it, is I want to make a 3-band radio to cover all 3 of the low bands. At the price point for an assembled unit being close to $150, and then if you're going to put it in a case, I just think most people, if they're going to invest that, would rather invest an extra 50 or 75 and get all 3 bands.
So this is another question about the cases. How do you plan to do the cases? Do you plan to do like 3D printing or get some injection molded cases, or you're not going to offer cases at all?
I'm hoping to have some kind of an offering for the cases. That's still way up in the air at this point. I've got a CNC machine here. My first go-to that I want to give a try is get some of the 2-layer plastic panels that have 2 different colors when you engrave them out, and try engraving some end panels and put them on a nice metal case of some kind. They probably won't be a cheap $20 case, but if I'm going to go through the trouble to do that, I want something that's going to be very nice, and I also would like a metal case that's going to offer some shielding.
Okay. Let's see, Craig, very interested in doing Whisper on VHF. There's not a lot to study. Yeah, you know what? I'll do some videos on Whisper sometime. Why not? Okay. Don says he'd go for a 3-band kit on the low bands. Okay. But I think definitely. So Joe is. So I introduced Joe to 3D printing, and I actually 3D print a lot of cases and stuff and different things. That's one way to go. It's not the only way. It's probably not the best way, but it's a way to go.
At this point, my 3D printer is not capable of making a case large enough to hold one of these, especially with the 3-band mod. So I'd have to invest in a new 3D printer if I went that way. I'm not saying that it won't happen. We may get that. I know they make some really nice paints that you can spray paint for RF shielding on the inside of a plastic case. So that may end up being a more cost-effective way of going. It's all up in the air at this point. I've got to get kits put together and online, and then I'll probably work on some case alternatives and get that 3-band unit offered, and then we're going to start working on a next generation unit.
Yeah. So Joe is definitely excited. He said cases are a big plus. So like I said, you guys get together. He will give you some great ideas, and he'll help you out. I'm pretty sure. I'm putting him on the spot, and I'm putting you on the spot too. But
Well, I'm
if
gonna
you
write
guys,
his name down.
yeah, Joe Eisenberg, he's K0NEB. Okay?
K0NED.
NEB, November Echo Bravo.
Okay.
He's from Nebraska. He's from Lincoln, Nebraska.
Okay.
Yeah. So the transmit limits on 630, I believe it's 1 watt ERP, and I believe on on 2200 it's 1 watt, and I think on 630 it's like 5 watts.
I do believe
So
you're correct.
yeah, but that doesn't mean that you're putting 5 watts in the transmitter. Some people you might put like 500 watts to get that because your antenna is so inefficient.
That's what I understand from everything I've read. I've got to do some more research before I start going that kind of power to find out how you determine what your efficiency on your antenna is.
Yeah.
Someplace there's got to be some instructions for how to figure that out.
Right. Yeah. I actually so when the FCC first allowed the 630 and 2200, I immediately put in with the Utilities Council to get approval for my area because you need to get approval, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I did that just to secure my spot, so that they don't run power lines next to me that have power line communication.
Yeah, I assume I'm good to go there. I filled out
Yeah.
that little form that they got online and sent it in on 3 different occasions now, and I have yet to hear even a whisper back.
If you haven't heard anything back, you're approved.
That's what I was reading. It still makes me nervous when I don't get some actual reply, but
well, the good news is, at least by me, is that our utilities, well, my utility is a cooperative, Sussex Rural Electric Cooperative, but we also have JCP&L, Jersey Central Power and Light, and JCP&L, apparently they use fiber. They use fiber communication, so they're not really using power line communications. Like all their SCADA and such like that is over fiber, so we don't have too much to worry about there. But yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I recommend to anybody, any licensed ham. There's a registration page. I'll probably put it up on. I'll probably talk about it sometime. And you basically registering with the Utilities Technology Council, something like that. Let's see here. Yeah, Utilities Technology Council, and then I'll show you this article from ARRL here. Let's see here. Share screen, Chrome tab. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, and then so they have a report and order, and then you must notify UTC, right, that they intend to operate by submitting their call signs, intended bands, and the coordinates of their antenna's fixed location. No mobile operation. Okay. And then, so here's a notification website. And then they do here, and easy peasy. So I could drop this in the chat, and you guys can, let's see here. The notification process to get started on the 2-meter band. Arna is from Fremont. Okay, cool. Arnie. Check out the 4 states QRP. Okay. One other thing, is that one kit I have uses PCB stock as part of the case, but if you want to do something nice, that's pretty good. All right, Ben, any closing thoughts?
not really. I'm just getting to where I'm not quite so overwhelmed, and I'm starting to, form all this up a little bit in my head as to what all I want to do and what kind of order prioritize things. If I get some notes on the Softrock 40 IO page there. If
Yeah.
people have got some requests where they would like to see or would like direction that they'd like to see go, let's see some postings up there. I do get on there several times a week and read and check up on what's going on. So if anybody's got any questions, I'll do my best to try and answer them there. My webpage eventually, hopefully by next year, will have some kind of two-way communication on it.
Okay.
It's
All right.
just going
Well,
to take
great.
some time to put it all together.
Well, you know what, Ben? Ben, like I said, I'm excited, and I think I'm going to do a little something with the with one of the Softrock kits here, and keep us posted. Most importantly, you know how to reach me. I definitely want to hear more of how you're progressing. If you need any help with anything, getting the word out and such like that, by all means.
Okay.
I really enjoyed using these Softrock radios and getting my feet wet in SDR. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Ria.
All right. So everybody, this has been Live with Ria for another week. I'm going to try to get on. Summer is almost over. Thank you, Craig. Yeah. I always enjoy kits. Like I said, New England Ham Exposition, which has the New England and Hudson Division ARRL conventions. It's coming up not this weekend. This weekend's Huntsville, but the following weekend we're going to have the that convention. Joe will be there. Okay, so Joe is going to be there, and he is going to definitely. Oops, not yet, people. Okay. Yeah, Joe is going to be one of the keynote speakers, and Joe's going to be doing a live kit build. So if you check it out, hamexposition.org, right? hamexposition.org. And you can check out, let's see here. You can buy tickets if you're in the area, right? You can see the forum schedule. And we're at the Best Western Royal Plaza Hotel and Trade Center in Marlborough, with a GH, not the same as the one, the cigarettes that Superman went into, Marlborough, Massachusetts. So it's right off 495 on Route 20 West. And let's see here. Grand Banquet has Joe Eisenberg, K0NEB. The DXCC Contest Dinner has Joe Reiser, W1JR. Right? And the flea market, the forums, David Minster will be there. Aries Academy, Amateur Radio Expo, license exams, one-day tech class, right, with Dan Romanchik, KB6NU, and a special event station, DXCC card checking, fox hunting, lots of prizes. They're giving away a Flex. They're giving away ICOM 705, 2 ICOM radios and a Flex. What more can you want? Yeah, this is good stuff, right? This is great stuff. And I'll be there. You want to meet me in person, you want to hang out, I'll tell some stale jokes and some funny jokes, and we'll be good. There is a another thing. One of these hamfests had asked me to. They up on 89. Oh, okay. Hi Paul. Yeah, I have to get on with you guys sometime. But one of these hamfests, they moved their date because of the ham expedition. So let me see if I could find it. There's a hamfest in Connecticut. Okay. Candlewood Amateur Radio. So let me bring this up here. So Candlewood Amateur Radio Association in Danbury, they have moved their hamfest. I want to show here what they're doing. Candlewood. So yeah, if you are in Connecticut or any area, you can check out the Candlewood Amateur Radio Association, and it's going to be on September 11th from 8 a.m. till noon, right? So they have new location, Western Connecticut. So if you're in Western Connecticut, go check them out. They had to move because of our the New England and Hudson Division conventions. So, I'm giving them a solid here to try to get them back. I think. So anyway, all right, guys, I've overstayed my welcome. Thank you for sharing your Sunday night with me. And my friends, are there any EWRL Hamfests in Texas anymore? There are Hamfests in Texas. The big one was HamCom. I used to go to HamCom. HamCom was nice. They ran into problems due to COVID and other stuff, so they kind of stopped. My colleague John Robert Stratton N5AUS is kind of talking with them about probably bringing it back. Who knows? We'll see. I'm rooting for them. Of course, if they do have it again, I'm going to be down there because I'm a part-time Texan. Okay. And I go to Texas due to my Second Amendment activities. But so we see that. All right. So anyway, thank you guys. Have a good night, and I'll see you around.